The movie opens up as we're introduced to an overweight teenager named Sara who lives in a small town in Spain. Because of her size, she's constantly mocked and bullied by her friends and neighbors in the area. One morning, Sara is working at her parents' butcher shop when she notices her classmates gathered outside in the town square. 3 local girls, Maca, Claudia, and Rosie, along with their friend Pedro, are considering whether to attend the Madrigal festivities later. Sara then notices Maca looking at her, pretending to vomit, which makes her feel bad. Moments later, Claudia enters Sara's shop with Maca to pick up some meat as ordered by her mother. Sara and Claudia were once close friends, but they grew apart after the latter began hanging out with popular girls. After they leave, Sara opens her Instagram and finds out that Maca has posted her picture with her parents with the caption, "3 little piggies." This makes her feel terrible, but she doesn't dare to confront them. The scene then shifts to the local pool, where we see a lifeguard harassing a waitress. Meanwhile, a stranger witnesses this and stares intently at the lifeguard, who questions why he's staring and even calls him a clown. Later that afternoon, Sara goes to the local swimming pool by herself. She's relieved that the lifeguard and waitress are not present, as she is extremely self-conscious. Moments later, she notices the strange man emerging from the water, whom we had seen in an earlier scene. Sara is nervous about seeing him and becomes self-conscious about swimming. Just then, Maca, Rosie, and Claudia arrive and start bugging her, calling her Piggy. They even jokingly comment that the strange man must be Sara's boyfriend. Hearing this, Sara dives to avoid them, but the girls continue to torment her. They trap her in the leaf cleaning net and laugh, claiming that they're going to hunt the whale. Sara screams for help, particularly from Claudia, whom she still considers a friend, but to no avail. She nearly drowns, but the girls insist that nothing will happen and start recording her. Sara eventually manages to free herself and swim to the other side. She is so terrified that she overlooks the lifeguard, who is tied to a stone and dead at the bottom of the pool. She then watches helplessly as the girls steal her clothes and flee. Afterward, Sara is distraught and forced to make the long journey home in only her bikini and bare feet. To make matters worse, another group of boys follows her in a car and mocks her, calling her Miss Bacon. They even get out of the car and begin inappropriately touching her. After she escapes from them, she moves forward without noticing Maca crawling behind her in blood. Sara soon notices a white van pulling up in front of her, driven by the man she had previously seen at the pool. Moments later, she notices that Claudia is trapped inside the van with bloody hands and is begging for help. The man opens the door and looks at her, which scares Sara so much that she starts peeing on the spot. However, he does not hurt her and instead leaves her a towel to cover herself. As the van drives away, Sara grabs the towel and runs home. On the way, a police officer named Juan notices her terrible condition and asks if she's okay, but she does not respond. A while later, Sara manages to return home, but she doesn't tell anyone about what happened. She looks at Maca's Instagram post from this morning and decides she is not going to help her bullies. Later, her father sends her to the hardware store to buy some fluorescent lights. She tries to buy her favorite snack there, but the shopkeeper warns her that it's bad for her, so she decides not to buy them. But the strange man who has been following her ends up purchasing them. As Sara leaves the store, she meets her mother, who tells her that the lifeguard has been found dead in the pool. Her mother suggests that they go check, and although Sara is hesitant, she eventually agrees. The two then proceed to the local pool, unaware that the murderer is following them. Upon their arrival, they see people surrounding the crime scene and discover that the waitress is also missing. Although Sara does not want to divulge what happened, her mother reveals that Sara had been to the pool. When Juan questions her about it, Sara lies, saying she went to the river, not the pool. When her mother urges her to tell the truth, Sara becomes enraged and claims she never comes here because other kids call her a pig. She then accuses her mother of not doing anything to help her. When they return home, Sara's mother informs the father that the other kids bully and torment Sara because of her weight. She then tells her daughter that if she's called fat, she will have to do something, and she only serves her salad. Meanwhile, the murderer is at one of Sara's neighbors' houses, where he gags a woman while she eats, then slits her throat. In the evening, Claudia's mother, Elena, arrives at Sara's house. She mentions that she was trying to call Sara on her cell phone but got no response. Sara remembers that she lost her phone in the woods, but lies, claiming it's upstairs. Elena expresses her worry because Claudia hasn't returned and asks if Sara knows anything. Sara's father suggests that the kids might be at the Madrigal Festival, but her mother takes the opportunity to inform Elena that her daughter is bullying Sara and then kicks her out. Following this, Sara returns to her room and sees that her favorite snack has been placed near her window. She worries that someone might be stalking her, but decides to eat it anyway. She then realizes that if the cops find her phone, she might get into trouble. So Sara takes her father's phone and retraces the path she had taken that afternoon, constantly calling her number to track down her phone. In the meantime, the parents of the three girls are worried and also searching for them in the same area. After walking some time in the woods, Sara eventually finds her phone, but gets startled when the killer grabs her hand and takes her away to hide. The two find refuge in an abandoned building while the girls' parents follow the signal on their daughters' phones and arrive. The killer and Sara are so close that it appears they will kiss, but when he notices the parents approaching, he decides to leave. Just then, the parents discover the dead body of the missing waitress by the poolside. Elena begins to scream in terror, and Sara uses this distraction to rush home. Later, Sara returns home and begins to pleasure herself by thinking about how close she came to kissing the stranger. But then she hears someone calling her from the street and looks out the window. It turns out to be Pedro, who is Claudia's boyfriend. She goes downstairs to meet him, and he questions why she lied about not being at the pool. He reveals that Claudia sent him the video from there, and Sara can be seen in the background. Sara explains that she was attacked by them and forced to flee in her swimsuit, but she doesn't know what happened next. She then asks him not to tell anyone about it, and Pedro agrees. Elsewhere, Sara's mom goes out to hang clothes and notices the towel that her daughter brought. Sara had told her it was from the market, but she notices Claudia's initials on it. Meanwhile, Sara and Pedro share a joint and are soon noticed by Elena. She accuses Pedro of being responsible for her daughter's disappearance and demands answers. However, he shifts the blame to Sara, claiming she was the last to see them. Witnessing the chaos, Sara's mother intervenes to protect her daughter, and a scuffle breaks out between her and Elena. The police also arrive, and Pedro reveals in front of everyone that Sara has admitted to having gone to the pool. After this, our girl is immediately picked up by the police for questioning. Because Sara is a minor, her mother accompanies her to the station and sits through the questioning. Juan asks her what she knows, and Sara cries, claiming she was almost drowned by the girls, who left with her clothes. She explains that she returned home almost naked and didn't know what happened to them afterward. Juan is convinced that she knows something more, but Sara can't stop crying. Seeing her daughter's distress, her mother gets defensive and decides to take her away from there. In the meantime, the murderer breaks into Sara's room and steals one of her underwear. But when her father sees him, the murderer attacks him viciously and kills him. Moments later, Sara returns home and argues with her mother, claiming she treats her like a child. Her mother then shows her Claudia's blood-stained towel and asks why she lied to her. Sara starts screaming that she doesn't understand her and that she's just like everyone else. She wishes she could just die, and when her mother attempts to slap her, the killer steps in. He then ends up killing the mother as well. Just then, Sara's brother is heard shouting from the bathroom because there's no toilet paper. The killer heads upstairs to kill him as well, but Sara stops him and they head to his car. They pass by the boys who made fun of Sara earlier and now continue to pick on her, calling her Miss Bacon. The killer then reverses at full speed, forcing the boys to jump to avoid being crushed. On the road, the man offers Sara her favorite snack, and she appears to be moved by the gesture. He is distracted for a brief moment and fails to notice an escaped bull in the middle of the road, which causes an accident. Sara faints from the crash, but the killer protectively carries her to an abandoned slaughterhouse outside the town where he had made his shelter. The next morning, when Sara wakes up, she walks around the slaughterhouse and is horrified to come across Claudia and Rosie. The two are tied and gagged, hanging from a hook, but still alive. Although they're her bullies, Sara tries to untie them and set them free. Claudia asks her where the police are and why she hasn't told anyone. Sara responds that she got scared, and Claudia screams that they're going to die because of her. Moments later, Sara manages to untie Rosie's feet and slide down the bar to which she's tied. They then hear the killer coming, so Sara quickly manages to hide. However, she soon stumbles and discovers Maka's dismembered body, causing her to scream in horror. The killer quickly catches her, and Sara screams that she doesn't want to die. He then assures her that he's not going to hurt her. Next, the killer gives Sara a knife and takes her to the girls. He then urges her to kill her bullies and take revenge herself. To his surprise, Sara turns around and tries to stab him instead, but he easily grabs and hits her. The man then grabs a shotgun and tries to shoot her. Overpowered by the huge man, Sara struggles to keep him from using the shotgun, but manages to weaken him with a stab. The gun goes off during the fight, which injures one of Claudia's hands. When Sara's rage takes over, she lunges at the man and squeezes his neck tight. She then viciously begins biting his neck until she tears off a piece, causing him to die. However, Sara immediately regrets her actions and starts crying while hugging his dead body. Seeing this horrifying scene, Rosie still calls her Piggy and asks what she's about to do now. At this point, Sara picks up the shotgun and aims at the girls. She has the opportunity to kill her bullies, but instead decides to do the honorable thing. Instead of blasting them away with a gun, she shoots at the shackles that are holding them and frees them instead. In the aftermath, Sara leaves the slaughterhouse and walks toward the road, bloody and barefoot. After some time, she comes across Pedro, who is on his motorcycle. He offers to drive her to town, and she sits behind him. The two then ride away from there as the movie comes to an end.